Hello guys, welcome to another weekly breakdown video. Now this is the weekly breakdown of the first week of the new year of 2024, and it is a New Year's week, so obviously not a high probability week to trade because we don't know if the market has yet caught up to its momentum and volume or not. So let us figure that out. So going on the weekly, I've marked this supply zone here, this change of character. So now I mark the supply zones, change of characters, and draw of liquidity, which is our targets. So clearly we can see the weekly bias going on for the next week will be bearish because of how this candle closed, and it is also from a supply zone. So it also makes sense to look for sells, and this will be my target if I was bearish. So now going to DXY for confirming the bias. This is the demand zone that caused that break of structure, and also there is the higher low from that demand zone, and it is a bullish pin bar. So I was targeting this fair value gap here on the weekly time frame. So this was my weekly bias, whereas it was simple, right? So now going to the daily, not wasting any times. Okay, so let me show you the callouts first. So always wait for the inducement to happen. There is wait for the 8 a.m. UK time candle to close to reduce getting induced, like in this trade. Okay, so on one of the trades, yeah, I was induced. I am also noticing that every time, whenever there is a move, like at 12:30, most of the times, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but most of the times, like waiting for 8 a.m. UK time candle is benefiting me more rather than not. So also there's one thing that I've learned: whenever there is no clear zones to trade from, that is when the market it tends to give continuation models. So whenever, like in the hourly or 15:30 on the 4 hourly, there happens to be no zones to trade from. For example, your bias is bearish and there's no clear supply zones, like not strong supply zones, there are only demand zones. Sometimes stuffs like that happen, yeah. So that is when the market gives continuation models. Exactly the thing that I'm speaking right now happened, and I'll show you why. Strong order block made on the H4 time frame can work too, like we saw in this trade. Yes, like the market was bearish, yeah, the market was bearish on Tuesday. It made a huge order block like this on the 4 hourly. Wednesday went up, Thursday went up, filled up this huge fair value gap that was here, and on the 4 hourly reacted from this supply and make something like this, which is the drop base drop. This is our setup, bro. Accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So stuff like that work too, but that's a swing trading concept, so it is what it is. If you want to learn that, you can. I have, so why not? Whenever GU and EU hasn't swept Asian highs or lows according to your bias, but GU did. Okay, whenever EU and DXY has not swept Asian highs or lows according to their bias, but GU did, we can consider it as inducement because 2 is more stronger than 1, for example. That can be an inducement. That was exactly what happened, and I will also show you why I have written all of these callouts. Okay, so now, and makes the move even stronger. Okay, so now going to DXY, if I have written any callouts or not, let's check it. So on DXY there's no callout. So now, not wasting any time, going to the daily time frames. So on the daily time frame on Monday/Tuesday, because Monday is New Year, so the markets are closed. So now let me open the daily. So going on Monday, my bias was not clear at all. So what I will do, I will not trade. I will wait for Tuesday to close. Look, just waiting for Tuesday to close, it gave us our bias, didn't it? It changed character to the downside. So now, obviously, on going on Wednesday, I will look for sells, and also my weekly bias was bearish, as I've told you. On the GU and DXY, it's bullish. So going on Wednesday, I will look for sells, which is also aligning, I believe, in USD. Yes, it's also aligning on USD to fill up this fair value gap, which already filled up. Okay. So on Friday, this was the candle. I don't know why it didn't close. So there was a fair value gap here. It also filled up the fair value gap here. As you can see, I have already deleted. I don't know why. There was a fair value gap here on the daily, which got filled, right? But after filling up this fair value gap, it didn't show any signs of reversal. If it gave a wick from here, rejecting this zone, I would have considered that now the price might continue to the downside with the trend. But right now, it's clearly showing that bulls are taking control of the markets. So that is when I go to GU on the 4 hourly to look for potential entries, yeah? So this is what I was saying here, for example. Yep, strong order block. This is a strong order block on the 4 hourly. As you can see, this was the high, this was the low that caused this high. The market was literally bullish. This was the high that caused another low right here, changing character to the downside, as you can see. And this was the H4 supply zone, and this was the H4 fair value gap right here. So I will also show you that probably happened on Thursday. So on now going on Wednesday, let's focus on Wednesday. And now obviously on the H4 I marked the supply zone, which is there, and which will not trade as of now because that is very far away right now. And on the H1, obviously my bias was bearish. I wait for the Asian range to close, because without the Asian range closing we can't do nothing. So Asian range closed. There was the H1 fair value gap here, as you can see. I will mark it again. So this was the only zone that I was looking for, because there was no supply zones. Whenever there is no supply zones, I've also written here, whenever, okay, not this one, not this one, not this one, and also not this one. So okay, I've not written that. So whenever there is no zones, yeah, to trade from, even if it's a fair value gap in the hourly, you can also argue there are fair value gaps here, here, and here. But according to the Asian range, we mark the closest. And also looking at the trend, bro, looking at the strength of the trend, does it make sense for the market to go all the way up here and then come again? No. Especially on Wednesday, no, because yeah, it might go on Thursday and then come back, but on Wednesday we are looking for a trade. So according to the strength of the trend and according to how this target is not swept yet, it makes sense to mark this fair value gap here on the H1, because that is the closest. And now this is when I go to the lower time frames like M30 and M15 to mark some zones. So this was the M15 zone that I've marked, and I was waiting for Asian high to sweep, this previous structure liquidity to sweep. So obviously there was a move here. Many people would have entered here 100%. Even me, if I didn't knew about my setups nicely, then I would have entered there, and obviously this was a winner, bro. I'm not saying that this was a loser. This was also a winning trade, but obviously this was a 12:30 p.m. move, which is 7 a.m. UK time. So I didn't trade that. I waited for my timing, which is 1:30, and also the correlation with DXY and EU was weird, so that was also one of the reasons. So this is where I entered after this rejection, and then the rest was history. Literally played out. This was a winning day on Wednesday, right? So this is the weekly bias. So I will not show you the trades very in detail. If you want to see that, I have uploaded those videos on my other playlist. You can check that. Whereas now on the daily time frame, you can see Wednesday closed as a bullish candle. So now Thursday makes sense to go and fill up this fair value gap, hands down, right? But my weekly bias is bearish, so it's not aligning with the weekly bias. That's one red flag. Whereas on DXY, also this is not a bearish candle, bro. From which angle do you see this as a bearish candle? So on Thursday, my bias was not clear, and even when the GU and DXY bias is not clear, or they are doing some same sort of things, I go to EU. Even EU was bullish, mate. So three things doing the same thing. So this was a very, very uncertain or unpredictable or confusing close, you can say. So going on Thursday, now this will play out. Where is this? Strong order blocks make on the H4, right? So this is the time. So there was a H4 fair value gap. This whole was H4 fair value gap, right? So now what the market did, the market went up, swept all of this fair value gap, as you can see, came to this H4 supply zone, which was made. My bias was not clear. If my bias was not clear, but even though if I wanted to trade, I could have traded this because my bias was not clear, right? H4 fair value gap got filled, H4 supply zone got mitigated, H1 M30 or M15 rejection. Okay, so it was a M15 rejection and a 10 pip stop loss and a 1:6 risk to reward. I could have traded this. This would have been a, what you say, that swing trade. This would have been a swing trade. As you can see, my bias was not clear on Thursday. So now, obviously, if I wanted to trade, I was desperate to trade, then I could have traded this and call it a day right there. But I didn't. So now it has filled up this fair value gap too. Now the market has filled up this fair value gap too and has aligned with the weekly bias. The weekly bias is bearish. So now Thursday filled up this fair value gap, mitigated this supply zone here, which I have not marked yet. and I will not mark it yet, but if the market continues to go up, then I will. But for now, clearly a bearish pin bar filled up the fair value gap, mitigated the supply, so it makes sense to sell on Friday, and it's also aligning with the weekly bias being bearish. But whereas on DXY, it is a bullish pin bar, but not one of the strongest close. As you can see, price came back, rebalanced the price, and then rejected. So there is also a fair value gap here and fair value gap right here. So we don't know which fair value gap will get filled. This was also not one of the cleanest bias, obviously. And looking at euro, also my bias was not yet clear. And yeah. So let me show you. I was looking for sales and also news. Oh, I forgot to show you guys news. Sorry. On Thursday there was ADP non-farm employment change and all the USD news. Monday, Tuesday there was no news. Wednesday there was no London news. So Wednesday we traded, won the trade. Thursday was a low probability day to trade according to the news. So obviously not trading was better on Thursday. And on Friday there's NFP. So NFP I don't trade. I just don't trade NFP. I have cut out NFPs from my trading. And now let's see how this, even though I have cut out those things, but I am back testing, right? I'm back testing right now. So the more the amount that I can learn, the better for me. So that is why I'm back testing every single day. Whereas on Friday, I was looking for sells from no supply zones. As you can see, I have written here. I believe I have written here. Whenever there is no clear zones to trade from, I have noticed in the markets the trends that it tends to give continuation models. Let me show you why I've written this. On the hourly, this is the low that caused this high. So this is a clear demand zone, right? This is a clear demand zone. There is no supply zone in the hourly. On the 30 minutes also, this is the demand zone right here. This is the demand zone here. There's no clear supply zones. Even on the 15, there was no clear supply zones. A clear supply zone will be a market structure shift, fair value gap with the bias, but it wasn't. So that is when I look for continuation models. But to be honest, I would not have traded this day. But obviously, just because I'm back testing, I will monitor what happens. There was M15 fair value gap. Continuation models we tend to take from the fair value gaps. So this fair value gap literally didn't got respected at all. No rejection from this fair value gap, so I didn't trade it. Just because there is a fair value gap doesn't mean that we need to trade that. No, we need rejection. We need the market, the price to show us that it wants to reject that zone. So this is the high that caused this lower low. And also there was inducement at 12:30. As you guys know, 12:30 there was inducement. Boom. I didn't enter there, waited for this to induce, and then got a beautiful rejection right there with a 7 pip stop loss and targeted the previous day low for a 1:3. But this was NFP day. So also look at this. Let me show you one more thing. What NFP tends to do is, right, you can see there was huge liquidity right here, right? There was huge liquidity right here from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What did NFP do? NFP went down, swept all of this liquidity right here, and then literally continued to the upside. NFP CPIs are literally tends the market. They decide the direction where the market will be headed for the next weeks. As you can see, first it might go down like it did in this trade, sweep all of the liquidity, sweep all of the buyers right here. All of the buyers got stopped out. Friday also was a winning trade. So after that it literally went up lots. So this was the weekly breakdown for you guys. And if I show you how the weekly candle closed, so the weekly candle is not yet clear because it's December and New Year, so there's not yet the volume you want to see in the markets. As you guys know, these are the times where you don't want to be involved in the market. Whereas on DXY it closed as a bullish candle, so next week we might look for this fair value gap to fill, something like that. So let's see.